All set? Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me here today. Unlike most recent press conferences, we are not focused on COVID-19, though I'm sure we'll have some questions in regards to that, but to talk about the news with regards to Amazon's interest in a $3.8 million square feet, $300 million national distribution center in Grand Island, as well as the most recent news with regards to the Toronto Blue Jays playing the vast majority of their home games in Buffalo during this season. First, I'd like to talk a little bit about the Amazon project. Then I will talk a little bit about the Blue Jays, and I will then open it up for your questions. For more than 2 years now, my administration has been working with Amazon as well as Trammell Crow Development to bring a national distribution center to our region. This is not the same as what's in Lancaster or Tonawanda. Lancaster, which is a final mile fulfillment facility, Tonawanda, which is a minor distribution center, but one of their large, massive mega project distribution centers that would fulfill orders and produce and move product from these large warehouses to smaller warehouses for final distribution to people's homes. This would be one of the largest construction projects this region has ever seen. It rivals in some ways the construction of the original University of Buffalo campus in Amherst with regards to the size of it, nearly 4 million square feet. These facilities are not being put in every community, and we are competing not just against other communities in Western New York, but truthfully other communities across the United States. They looked at multiple locations, including locations that we thought would be a good location for this site. They are specifically looking for a location, and have been for some time, that has a ease on with regards to truck deliveries and traffic. They're looking for, because this is a logistics center, something that is in a major logistics corridor, transportation corridor. They had looked at the Bethlehem Steel site in Lackawanna, and it was significantly considered, but in the end, they chose a location on Grand Island, off of Long Road, which is immediately adjacent to Interstate 190. As part of the negotiations with Amazon, we would not give them exactly everything they wanted. They wanted the same type of economic development deal that was offered by Onondaga County for a project in Clay, New York. We said that is not sufficient, and we negotiated a project that would pay millions of dollars more than what was paid for in Onondaga County. In effect, Amazon will be getting what any manufacturer, any logistics provider would qualify for at the ECIDA for tax incentives. If you spread it out over the life of 15 years, it's a little less than $400,000 that will be paid in taxes in full if nothing is ever put there. And we're talking about at least $30 million just in taxes with regards to the site for the city, the county, and the school district. That does not include the additional fees and other types of services that are provided that would be included, in which Amazon, through Trammell Crow, their developer, submitted to the town of Grand Island. We believe that this is one of the strongest deals that any locality would receive with regards to the revenue that's generated for the siting of the Amazon project in Erie County. And then, of course, there are the jobs that are created. There would be higher level jobs, management jobs that would pay higher salaries, but we all know and have heard of at least 1,000 jobs throughout the entire year, going up to over 1,500 jobs at certain times of the year, paying at least a minimum wage of $15 an hour with benefits. That $15 an hour is actually greater than the living wage in Erie County for a single individual. This is not an inconsequential project. This is a project of regional significance. As I noted, this is one of the national distribution centers for Amazon. It would not be just a local final mile distribution center as we have in Lancaster. As part of the negotiations with Amazon, they did not want their name to be made public. But as part of those negotiations, we said it is not fair to the people of our community to have a project of this type and not know who the end tenant is. while Trammell Crow is the developer and maybe the owner initially of the land, I think the public deserves to know it was going to be Amazon in the end. And Amazon agreed that as part of their submission with the Erie County Industrial Development Agency for tax incentives, their name would be revealed, which did not happen in Onondaga County in the Clay project, and did not happen and does not happen in almost every one of the projects across the United States with Amazon. They do not reveal their name until they basically walk in to the facility. And we felt that was inappropriate to be offering a discussion on tax incentives and for people to understand that who is going to be the end user was very important. Amazon has agreed to follow and abide by every single one of the policies that are in effect with the Erie County Industrial Development Agency, including the local labor policy for construction. Under the local labor policy at the ECIDA, at least 85% of all the construction workers on a project must come from the 8 counties of Western New York. So we're not going to see, if this project is built, construction workers come from other parts of the country to do the project. It will be done by the construction workers here. I know the Buffalo Building Trades have had discussions with Amazon and Trammell Crow about entering into a project labor agreement. The IDA does not have a policy with regards to project labor agreements, but we do have the local labor policy, and that is something that will be in effect, as well as the pay equity policy and the other policies that presently exist. I am very worried that if this project is rejected by the town of Grand Island, they will move elsewhere. When I say elsewhere, we've heard people say, well, they might look elsewhere in upstate New York. I think they will look elsewhere outside of this Western New York community. At a time in which thousands of people have lost jobs as a result of the impact on the economy due to the pandemic, I do not think we can turn a blind eye to Amazon and the 1,000 plus jobs that they are offering. I know there's questions about Amazon and people feel that they should not get any tax break whatsoever, but I think it's important to note they would be treated no differently than any other applicant to the ECIDA. They would get the same benefits that any other applicant would get with the creation of these jobs. And so they did not get special privileges. When and if it actually comes up to the ECIDA for a vote, you will see that the program that has been agreed upon is no different than if it had been Perry's Ice Cream, or if it had been another major manufacturer like Rich Products. They are not getting special treatment. And in some ways, I think this is the best example of how we fight for our community to create jobs in our community, but don't give away the store where tax breaks on top of tax breaks on top of tax breaks. As I noted, over a 15-year period, at best, about $400,000 in taxes would be generated at that site, which I will note is approximately 150 acres. There are very few sites in our region that could fit a project this size unless you go out into the rural areas and start basically plowing under farmland. This site is, of course, zoned for this type of purpose. It is presently before the town board with regards to a height variance. I know that this is contentious on the town of Grand Island, but we knew no matter what and where Amazon eventually went to that there would be people who objected to the project. This project means a lot for our community. It's not just the jobs associated with Amazon, it's the spin-off jobs that would result from it. From the people who would clean the facility all the way down to, if you think about it in the winter, the individuals who would snowplow the parking lots. These are the types of things that we need to show the rest of the country that we are in the ball game. I'll talk about the ball game in a second. But we need to be in this ball game when it comes to economic development. A lot of people would like Amazon to disappear, but they have disrupted the international economy. They are the modern Sears, which changed the way retail was done at the end of the 1800s and the early 1900s. There are changes afoot that we cannot control, and Amazon is going to be here as a major partner for all of the world. And I think it's important that we get a national distribution center that I also believe could be used in the future for international deliveries to Southern Ontario. And I'd much rather have it here in Erie County with them paying a substantial amount of taxes and fees on an annual basis than them move elsewhere outside of our region and we get no benefit from it in the long run. We worked very hard, and I want to thank Deputy County Executive Maria White, who is, a lot of people know, is one of the more progressive liberal individuals I know. who fought tooth and nail to ensure that Amazon got nothing better than what any other company could technically apply for. And I think it goes to show that we fought hard and we're getting a better deal than what they've received elsewhere in New York State, or for that matter, elsewhere in the country. So I'm hopeful that when it finally comes up to a vote in the town of Grand Island, that they approve the project. If they do not, I am not certain what would happen, and the opportunity of losing at least 1,000 jobs, which would have a payroll on an annual basis of at least $31 million, at a time when there are thousands and thousands of people who've lost jobs with employers who are not returning, is something we cannot afford to lose. Individuals who worked at Pier 1, individuals who worked at Penny's, individuals who worked at other smaller retailers, or for that matter, our restaurants. Those jobs are not coming back when the businesses close. We know that Amazon is going to be around for decades and decades to come. Some people may not like it, but it is one of the major players when it comes to business worldwide. We've negotiated a fair deal on behalf of the people of this community, giving them no more than what any other company would qualify for, including those that are based here in our community. And I think we should be proud of that. And I'm hopeful that this project does get approved by the people in Grand Island. And then moving on, today's announcement that the Toronto Blue Jays will be playing their home games at Sahlen Fields in the city of Buffalo is a very, very good day for various reasons. To give you an idea how long it's been since the last Major League Baseball game was held in Buffalo, on October 7th of 1885, the Buffalo Bisons lost the last regular season game to be played in Buffalo to the Providence Grays. That year, they played teams like the New York Giants, the Chicago White Stockings, and of course the Boston Bean Eaters. We all remember them, even though they eventually became the Boston Braves and are now the Atlanta Braves. For quite some time now, behind the scenes have been discussions to bring the Blue Jays to our community, but we wanted to do it in such a manner that ensured the safety of our community first, as well as the safety of the teams and the players. I think it's very important for the public to know that the players, the organization, will be in quarantine at one of the local hotels while they are here on their homestand. And the same thing is for the visiting teams. They will be staying when they fly in, chartered flight, a bus that takes them directly to the hotel. They must stay in the hotel, they play the games, and then they fly out. As I said previously, I think the risk to our community is no greater, and is probably less greater than what we have when a local team, and we've had some problems with local amateur baseball teams, youth teams, traveling outside of our community, outside of Western New York, to attend tournaments elsewhere, like Ohio or Pennsylvania. And of course, those individuals then return and they disperse among the general population. We will not have to worry about that here because the teams that come in, the New York Yankees, the Boston Red Sox, the defending world champion Washington Nationals, the New York Mets, the Baltimore Orioles, and others will basically be sequestered and quarantined in hotels. And when it comes to the costs associated with the retrofit of Sahlen Field, no costs are going to be borne by the County of Erie, the City of Buffalo, or the State of New York. All costs are being borne by Major League Baseball and the Toronto Blue Jays. And when it comes to the new lights that will be installed, those will be starting installation, to my understanding, if not later today, tomorrow. And those will be permanent additions to Sahlen Field that the people of our community will not have to pay for. I think it's, we look at it, and we have to remember there's also a benefit to our local economy because there's at least 2 hotels that will be completely booked with Blue Jays as well as opposing team players and the work that will derive as a result of that. There are restaurants that will benefit because they have to provide catered food to the Blue Jays and the opposing teams. Even cleaners for the uniforms that will benefit from this. There will be an economic benefit to our community. I've talked it over with others in our administration. If we did not feel that this could be done safely, we would not have welcomed the Blue Jays here. But we know they take this seriously through our conversations with the Buffalo Bisons and others, and we take it seriously because we want to ensure the health and welfare and safety of our community. That's why I think everybody knows I'm a Dodger fan. They won last night 4-1 over the Giants, in case you didn't see it. Kike Hernandez with some very important hits. And I will always be a Dodger fan, including what happens in the postseason, because I hope the Dodgers finally win the World Series. It would be the first one since 1988, the famous Kirk Gibson home run. But I'm going to pull out this year for the American League, because when it comes to the American League, this is my old Toronto Blue Jays hat from the Joe Carter World Series years, and I just happen to have. That was given to me when they created the relationship between the Blue Jays and the Bisons a number of years ago. My little bit older than what they have today, Toronto Blue Jays jersey. And I will be rooting for the Buffalo Blue Jays that play and hope they smack the butts of the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Orioles, and everyone else this year. And then if they do end up meeting the Dodgers in the World Series, well, I'm going to be rooting for another team in blue this year, let's put it that way, because I will always be a Dodger fan. But on behalf of the people of Erie County, I want to welcome the Blue Jays organization to our community. We can keep you safe. We know we can keep the rest of our community safe. We are proud to have you here. There's been a strong relationship between Toronto and Buffalo when it comes to professional sports. We know of the Torontonians who come to our Buffalo Bills games and, of course, our Buffalo Sabres games. We know of the Buffalonians and Western New Yorkers who travel up to Rogers Center to watch the Toronto Blue Jays game. And even if it's only a partial season in 1 year, there will no longer say on the record books that the last Major League game to be held in Buffalo was in 1885. It will be in 2020 when the Buffalo Blue Jays, sorry Toronto, take on the rest of the teams this year in this different season. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions. Jim.
Amazon. Let's talk about Amazon first.
Okay.
I
should take this off.
No, it's all right. You can leave it on. You know a Red Sox fan.
Amazon.
All right, we're allowed to disagree on one thing. Why are you putting the pressure on now? This project has been hovering around for 2+ years. It's been on Grand Island's radar screen for more than a year. Why the 11th hour when it's maybe the 11th+ hour?
Well, the question was, for those who did not hear it, is why now am I talking about the Amazon project? First off, we had a non-disclosure agreement that during all negotiations and so forth prohibited us from talking about the particulars of the project. Yeah, well, you may have been writing about it for 2 years, but we've been writing about it as Project Olive, and a project that has a code word in Olive, and one that we knew had a chance of coming here, but was not a definitive site. They were looking seriously at Lackawanna. But truthfully, the site that we have in Lackawanna, which is a very large site at about 140 acres, is actually smaller than what they're proposing building in Grand Island.
Geotechnical issues with that one.
It didn't work, is the best way to put it. The site didn't work, and I was hoping it would work because there was also brownfield tax credits that are associated with that site. But we did negotiate as the deal with Amazon and Trammell Crow that they would have to reveal their name, even if it was kind of this 11th hour at the time they were going to do their submission with the ECIDA. And I think it's important for the public to know that we've been working on this for quite some time, and there is a benefit to our community. I know not everyone supports the project. It doesn't matter where the project was placed. There would be people who wouldn't support it. Interestingly, when I posted about this last night on social media, I got a response from a friend of mine who used to live here, who now works elsewhere, and works for Amazon, and is one of the most progressive individuals I've ever known. And his response is, they're a very good company with a progressive policy. So people are objecting to it for various reasons. We cannot unilaterally disarm compared to other parts of the country. Other parts of the country will give them a better tax break than what we offered here, which is basically the same as everyone else. They wanted their cake and eat it too, and we said, no, we're going to give you what everyone else would qualify for.
Can the county legally supersede Grand Island and say, yes, you can go there?
We cannot affect their planning and their town board votes, but we certainly have the ability with regards to the ECIDA on tax incentive issues. So the town does have the power with regards to planning issues, and that's exactly what's before the town board. The town board does have the ability to make the final decision regardless of what the planning board decided. And so while the planning board vote didn't go the way that a lot of people hoped, the town board has the ability in the final end to make the say. But the county does not have the ability to override a planning issue with regards to Grand Island. that's just the case. Just want to remind, I should have said this at the beginning, but I forgot. Normally, we have an American Sign Language interpreter here, but we were unable to get one on such short notice. So we do not have the American Sign Language interpreter, and I apologize to those who may be at home relying upon it. Hopefully you have the crawl at the bottom of the screen so that you could read what I'm saying. Next question. Eileen.
With Amazon, there is opposition. There's a couple of folks out there now trying to protest this. Residents say it's far too big. They don't want it in their community. They said it's going to be much higher than they expected. They don't want it in their backyard. How do you address their concerns? As I talked to some really long-time residents there today.
Well, when I talk about the concerns, one of the things about the size of this site was to create a buffer zone so that it would not come right into backyards. My understanding is Mr. Huntress put the crane up with the flag on to give people an idea what the height would be, which is really not that much different than the height of the existing hotel on Grand Island. It's just a very large building. I'm not going to deny that. I've had conversations with Supervisor Whitney, and these are the conversations that his community is also having with Amazon. As I noted, this was not our first choice location. We as a county, I would have actually preferred it at the Bethlehem Steel site. I think it would have been a perfect fit for the Bethlehem Steel site, but it just didn't work. And I did not also want to say, okay, you didn't get Bethlehem Steel, so now go now. I wanted to keep this project in our community. I also did not want to see it go many, many miles out into a greenfield and taking farmland. It is properly zoned for the proposed use. It's above their height restrictions. There are lots of manufacturers and warehouses and production facilities on Grand Island, and that area is a key economic development corridor for our region. If you just drive along the 190, you generally don't see houses. You see manufacturing, you see warehousing, you see production. There's some very large pharmaceutical manufacturers on Grand Island. It's just a very large project, but it meets the zoning requirements. It's not like it's being put right against somebody's backyard. And I think if we understand this, that there are always going to be people who criticize a project like this. I understand that. We've often heard about the NIMBYs, not in my backyard. They're like, fine, put it somewhere else, but not in my backyard. Well, as the county executive, I have to represent all 25 towns, the 3 cities, and I have to try to do the best to create an economic environment for our greater community. And that's what this project is. It's a project of regional significance. This is not the same as the facility in Lancaster or Tonawanda, and that's why it just can't be placed anywhere in our community. It is right along the 190 so that the trucks can easily get in and get out without going through neighborhoods and things like that. I know people object to it. I understand that. I knew people were going to object to this project regardless of where it ended up. I know there's a lot of people who are objecting to it who spend a lot of money with Amazon. It's just how it is. But in the end, this is too important a project for our community to turn its back on, because if we turn our back on this project, it's basically sending a message to a lot of these other mega projects that do exist out here: don't come to Erie County. Don't come to Western New York. And I don't think that's a message that we can send, especially at a time where tens of thousands of people have lost their jobs. And this would help our economy.
But are you concerned about the bridge traffic too there? Because that's a trouble spot as it is for.
The question was, am I concerned about the bridge traffic? Well, it would increase the traffic on the bridge. There's no doubt about it. There was a traffic study that was commenced and performed by Amazon and Trammell Crow, the developer. And I think it's fair to say that wherever it was placed, there was going to be traffic concerns because of the number of vehicles, but it certainly can handle that traffic. And I don't know, because I don't live on the island, but I traveled to Grand Island quite often since it's gone to cashless tolls. And I think it's fair to say that traffic coming to and from the island is much better than it ever has been. You do not have the backups like you used to, waiting to get in the toll booths. It's much better. There's always going to be a time of day, especially during rush hour, where it might be a little backed up. My understanding from the conversations we've had with Amazon is they would stagger the trucks, so it's not like all coming at the same time. They would have the truck traffic coming in and out at different times of the day. So while it would add more, it's not anything more that couldn't be handled by the existing infrastructure of the bridges. As I said, it wasn't our first choice, but I understand why they ended up selecting it as their final location because of the location next to the 190. It is in this important economic corridor between the city of Buffalo and Niagara Falls. The 190 is pretty much an industrial corridor from downtown Buffalo all the way up to just north of Niagara Falls Boulevard. It is an industrial corridor, and that's what it is on Grand Island as well. And I understand why they chose it, and I understand why people are upset too. But this project is too important for us to turn our back on. As I said, we'd be sending a message to the rest of the country that large projects are not welcome in Erie County. George?
As far as baseball, the dream was always to bring Major League Baseball here. What would Jimmy Griffin say, or what would you say about how unusual this whole situation is that because of a pandemic, a Canadian team has to play here?
Well, I'm not going to put words into Jimmy Griffin's mouth, and I knew Jimmy. I think he'd be happy. I'm not going to say exactly what he'd be saying, but I think he'd be happy. Actually, I will say one thing. If he was the mayor, he'd be asking to throw out the first pitch. I'm fairly confident of that. For myself, fans are not going to be able to attend the games. So it's not like we're going to be able to go down there and watch the games. But there's some pride in knowing that the players that we watched grow up and go through the Buffalo Bison's organization, like Vladimir Guerrero and Bo Bichette and others, are now going to come back and play Major League ball in Buffalo. And yeah, it's going to say Toronto on the jerseys, Blue Jays. That's okay. As I said, we've watched as Buffalo Bills games have been played up in Toronto. We weren't always thrilled with it. I'm sure the Torontonians aren't always thrilled with it. But the people in Toronto, they support the Buffalo Bills. And yeah, there's a lot of different teams that are supported in this region. I'm one of the few Dodger fans. Jim's a Red Sox fan. There's lots of Yankees fans, lots of Red Sox fans, lots of Mets fans. But there's also a lot of Blue Jays fans, too. I got an Orioles fan in the back there. It's going to be cool when the first nationally televised game, I don't know who it's going to be against. Let's just say the first nationally televised game is against the Red Sox. And live from Salem Field in Buffalo, New York, Major League Baseball, as the Toronto Blue Jays take on the Boston Red Sox. That's going to be pretty cool. And we get a benefit out of it. We get a benefit from the upgrades that are done to the stadium that we do not have to pay for, and that is a city-owned facility. We get a benefit from the economic development shot with regards to the hotels that are utilized, the restaurants that are utilized, the cleaners. I'm sure they're going to hire security guards and things like that. I talked to John Dandies very earlier from the Buffalo Bison's organizations and Rich Products, and I talked to John a lot on a whole bunch of different things. And it sounded like there was a telethon in the background. Phones were going off. It was just crazy. And we talked for a minute, and he goes, "Mark, it's chaos." But it's a good chaos. And there's going to be something when we look back and say, hey, in 2020, during a pandemic year, when things have gotten better here, and we still don't have that normalcy that we usually would have, it was kind of cool community pride to know that the Blue Jays were the Buffalo Blue Jays for 1 year and played in our home community. Yes?
We know that the Blue Jays were looking at other cities
Mhm.
before Buffalo. Were you hurt in any way that Buffalo seemed like the backup option for the Blue Jays?
I wasn't hurt. I understand why they were looking at other cities. They were looking at Pittsburgh and Baltimore because they're major league facilities. And if there's one thing I've learned about professional athletes, they want the best. They want the best of everything. And our park is a great park. It's probably still one of the best minor league parks, but it's a minor league park. It's not a major league park. It doesn't have the accoutrements, so to speak, that you would find in a major league facility. And it didn't hurt me. I understood why. I think the Blue Jays organization was exceptionally interested right from the beginning in Buffalo, but the players were like, hey, we want to play in a major league facility. If we have to be away from our home and our families, which they were going to have to be, at least we want to be in a major league facility. So I wasn't hurt by it. I understood why. And think about it this, if the Bills couldn't play at the football stadium in Orchard Park, I guarantee you they'd want to play in another NFL stadium, not UB Stadium, which is a nice little college field, but they wouldn't want to play there, even though the football stadium's the same size, or the field's the same size. They'd want to play in a major league facility. I get it. I understand it. No harm. But they're going to be here, and we're going to do what we can to protect our community, from further spread of COVID-19 and to ensure that those players are protected while we still get a nice economic boom on it. Maki?
Yeah, so how will the quarantining work for that?
You're gonna have
What are they allowed to do?
you're gonna have to talk to the organizations, particularly about how the quarantine will work. My understanding is they will basically be bussed back and forth to the hotel and the stadium.
But you
And they will
mentioned
not be,
restaurants.
and my understanding is not be able to leave the hotel to go party and stuff like that.
But you mentioned restaurants, you said that,
The food will be catered.
oh, so it'll have to come to them?
It'll have to come to them.
Okay, and there are also gonna be people who wanna see them.
They're not
you
gonna
know,
see them.
Run into them.
They're not. And that's, I mean, it's
I mean, how do we deal with that?
my,
That's on our end.
yeah, it is on our end, and that's why there's probably gonna have to be security to ensure that people are not entering the hotels. I think the hotels that they're getting are basically being rented in full. So like every room will be taken to ensure that the only people that are in the hotels are those that are affiliated with Major League Baseball.
How's that gonna work, is some of those hotels,
Are the same one that the NFL teams use?
The question was, how's it going to work with regards to some of those hotels being NFL ones? I don't know. I can't answer that question, Jim. We'll have to talk to the hotel operators and Major League Sports.
What about the buzz downtown when a game's going on and the whole building looking down? Will you
Oh,
be watching out for that and seeing the gatherings and?
Yeah, well, the question was, what about the buzz downtown and the tall building, One Seneca Tower, I think you mean? There's actually no one right now in One Seneca Tower, tenants, though M&T will be entering very soon. I think they're supposed to enter in September. Right now, we would just have to ensure that there's no events that are going on. Would I be surprised to see a few people peering out the windows that work at One Seneca Tower? Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
what about the parking ramp or the Oak Street break in that fence?
The question was the parking ramp or the Oak Street break in the fence. I'm sure they'll take care of that. It's an issue. We're going to try to ensure that it's a safe environment, working with our partners in the city of Buffalo as well as Major League Baseball and the Bisons organization. I want to thank the Buffalo Bisons, Mayor Brown and his team, of course the Toronto Blue Jays, Governor Cuomo and his team to find a way to make this happen, but do it in such a manner that protects the public. I've had multiple conversations with the Bisons over the last week or so, but everything was sort of dependent upon the announcement. And now that the announcement's been made, we can sit down in greater detail. Okay, is there anything else that's required other than security? Is there anything else that's required with regards to the safety of the players? My understanding is all testing is going to be done by Major League. It's not going to be done by Erie County, so this is not going to take testing slots away from our general public. It's all being done under the protocols that were agreed upon by the Major League Baseball Players Association and Major League Baseball. It's more of just sit back and enjoy watching the games on TV and say, hey, I sat in that seat, and I can't believe that Vlad Guerrero just hit a 450-yard home run, because he might do that off Garrett Cole. The way Cole looked yesterday, I don't know if that's going to happen. Any other questions?
We'd like to see them use the.
Cutouts from the natural in the stadium?
Would I like to see them use the cutouts from the natural? I'd prefer that they actually offer cutouts for our local community with the proceeds to go to charity. So that local folks, if they want to buy a cutout, could buy a cutout, have their face all in the stadium, and the proceeds going to a local charity. I'd prefer that. I think that's, and I'm fairly confident that there'd be a lot of folks that would be buying the cutouts. And knowing this community, you would not just see people in cutouts in Blue Jays attire. You'd probably see people in cutouts in Yankees attire and Red Sox attire and Mets attire, and that'd be pretty cool. Cleveland Indians aren't coming here this year because they're in a different division, so to speak, but there's a lot of Cleveland Indian fans, and you might see an Indian fan or two. Let's just say this. The goal was always to do what was in the safety of our community. They promote and ensure the health and welfare. And when the first discussions were talked about this, I was like, well, if we can't promote and protect the health and welfare of our community, we're not going to support this. But based on the conversations with the team, the Bisons, and with others, we believe that this will not have any greater impact than one of our own citizens driving down to Pennsylvania for a baseball game, which is not currently on the list, though you could catch COVID down there because their numbers are higher. Yes, Brendan?
Yeah, along those lines, we saw two cities or states, I should say, kind of reject that based on, safety and whatnot. Did that make you guys stop and question, are we missing something here, or anything along those lines?
Well, the Canadian rejection was not totally surprising. I think they always thought they were going to have a problem with the national government because of the basic rule, which is no entry. The NHL, of course, is doing its games in Canada, but they had to get there early to meet the quarantine period, and no one will be allowed in. So it's not like if somebody wants to come in, or if they call somebody up from, say, the United States to play in a game, they have to quarantine for 2 weeks before they could even set foot and play. So it's a little different with Canada. Maryland, I'm not exactly certain if it was solely about the health. I know there were serious concerns about how they were going to turn that Camden Yards over, because there were games that were scheduled, that would have been home games scheduled in the same location on the same day. And there were concerns about constantly having 4 teams in there for like a game in the afternoon and a game in the evening, and how they would do it with the clubhouses and the batting practices and the like. That's different than what we have here, which is the Blue Jays are going to be based here, and then the opposing teams will fly in on their chartered flight, because we know professional sports don't come in on JetBlue and things like that. They fly in their chartered flight, they get on their bus, they go to the hotel, they sit in the hotel, probably twiddle their thumbs, play video games, go to the stadium, play the game, go back to the hotel. It's a different environment than having all these teams trying to work out together and practice and things like that. So I've heard that that was a concern with regards to Baltimore, is how they could do it with all of these 4 teams technically in one Camden Yards at the same time, trying to run games and practices and things like that. A little different.
Who's going to throw out the first pitch?
The question was, who's going to throw out the first pitch? I do not know. That will be a decision that should be made by the people associated with the Blue Jays. We got some good people in Erie County government, including folks from our public health department that I think would be a great choice.
Are we gonna see a Mark Poloncarz cutout behind home plate?
Are we going to see a Mark Poloncarz cutout? Possibly. We might see it. I don't know what they're going to do. If they do, yeah, I'll probably see a Mark Poloncarz cutout. And for posterity's sake, I'd probably be wearing the Blue Jays. But it's tough, though, as a Dodger fan. I love the Dodgers. I bleed Dodger blue. But I'm glad to see that Dodger blue is in the Toronto colors as well. Any other questions?
How much pressure do you think from Cuomo and Schumer that was put on baseball in the last 24 hours led to this decision?
The question was how much pressure was put on baseball the last 24 hours by the governor as well as Senator Charles Schumer? I think a lot. I think they did, especially after you heard folks in Maryland saying they wanted it. And then yesterday, all of a sudden, you heard the Connecticut governor and the Hartford mayor say, hey, come to Hartford. And I was thinking to myself, whoa, wait a minute. We have a natural connection with this team. They are our parent club. We have a lot of Toronto Blue Jays fans in the Buffalo area. I doubt there's a Toronto Blue Jays fan in Connecticut. And we can do it safely. So in the end, I think this was a good decision for our community, for professional baseball. And like with any decision, there are people who are going to criticize it. If there's one thing I learned in this position is if you want to run for office and make decisions and you want everyone to support everything you do, you might as well not run for office, because that'll never happen. People are always going to criticize you, whether it's your response to COVID-19, bringing a major economic power like Amazon to our community, or this issue with regards to baseball. Before we leave, are there any COVID-19 questions? This is the first press conference since, I think, March 1st, where have not had a COVID-19 question. With that, thank you, everyone, and go Blue Jays, go Buffalo Blue Jays, and I will not see you at the ballpark because I can't go to the games, but I will watch it on TV with a lot of other people. So take care, everyone. Be safe and well. Wear your masks.
And I got lucky, I already had a jersey.